Kia ora. As I put this voiceover together for this layout that I've created for hitting the books theme this month, I am thinking of all the other schoolwork that I should be getting on with, so it's quite fitting that I am working on this at the moment instead of doing what I should be, perhaps. So I'm going to be using pattern number 10 upside down and just the right hand the left hand side of it from Make It From Your Heart volume number 3. So that's kind of the sketch or pattern I'm roughly basing this layout on. And I'm using this new collection by Close to My Heart called Smarty Pants. So it's kind of a really perfect school, back to school kind of themed collection, but I am not the student, I am the teacher. So I'm going to document this side of hitting the books and back to school. Over here in New Zealand, we don't start at this time of year, so this is actually towards the end of our school year more so than in the middle. We are in what we would have as term 3, and at in a lot of American schools anyway, they're just about to start, I guess, semester 1 or term 1. So we have 4 terms, and between each term we have a 2-week term break. And in December we pause school for 4 or 5 weeks over our summer. So we're just coming into spring now. So it's now the 4th day of spring here in New Zealand, and it is over halfway through our school year. So I'm not starting school at the moment. However, we have just gone into a snap lockdown in New Zealand, and this layout sort of documenting that teaching continuing at home rather than at school. So it's hitting the books virtually rather than face to face. So we'd had 2 weeks and a couple of days of school this term before we were put into this lockdown, and we've now had 2.5 weeks of lockdown, and we're heading into another week, but we may get back to school face to face next week, which could be exciting, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with our announcements from the government on Monday. So I have fussy cut some of the paper here that you can see me putting the globe and the computer and bits and pieces around, and I'm just sort of trying to place these somewhere on the page that feels right, and I do change these later on, so this is very much a rough initial idea. So I've also gone through and picked out some Picture My Life cards that are part of this collection that I think will fit. And I have this gorgeous cut file from Confessions of a Paper Addict that I've wanted to use since Virginia first created it, and I have finally found the opportunity with this collection. And I am going to raid my scraps box to back this cut file. So anyway, I'm just trying to get the positioning right. Again, checking back at that pattern, flipping it upside down, turning it around, but it's just a guide. It's not something that we have to copy exactly. So I'm using the new quickie glue that Close to My Heart's put out, and it's a really nice thin tip. It does dry really quickly, and so I do need to use a little bit of heat and pressure if I've done a detailed cut file like this to make sure it holds down onto the paper. You'll notice it moved slightly there, and then I had to press that down a bit. So I'm going to fussy cut around this, and I am going to do this similar process to back the rest of the cut file, the pens and the paintbrushes and pencils and things. So I have decided that I'm going to back my photo on some White Daisy cardstock, which is a fairly standard thing for me. I was recently putting together a crop challenge, and one of them was to do some of the things that I always do on a layout, and one of them is to back a photo with some White Daisy and then trim it down, as well as layering other patterned pieces behind it, which is exactly what I do in this layout. So I've stuck those onto the cardstock, and then I'm cutting them just with the trimmer. Sometimes I use scissors, but I couldn't find my scissors when I needed to do this. I must have used them for something to do with school. So the photo, you can see this desk facing a back wall that I've sort of decorated up for my class, so that when I'm doing we're doing Google Meets rather than Zooms. When I'm doing those, you can see that in the background rather than other things or personal stuff. So we've had a lot of work around internet safety and making sure that our privacy as well as our students is maintained in this context. So you can sort of see that desk facing that wall, but over to the left of the photograph, which when I'm sitting down would be to my right, is actually my scrapbook space. So I've just had to pull in another desk into this room so I can do the safe virtual teaching. But it's a multi-purpose space, and come the weekend I sort of put that desk away, my school desk away, and so then I've just got free access to the craft space. So I'm backing my photos with some of the cool papers and things from the Smarty Pants Collection. And while I've fussy cut from this paper already, it just adds some nice colour details popping out from behind the photo when I matted them there. So I'm just using my little scissors to cut around that. It's not very good of me to do that off screen, is it? Anyway, I'm sure you've seen people cutting things with scissors before. So I'm just trimming around those rather than using my trimmer with the scissors, and I've got them there matted ready to go. So I decided to use the Picture My Life card where it says Work, Learn, Grow as my title, and I'm also going to pop the journaling onto that bit. So it's really good to be able to use the Picture My Life cards for lots of different purposes. Another thing I often do with my layout here with my photos is just bend over the corners of all of the photos. It just gives a little bit of depth and dimension without too much bulk and weight, so that it does go easily into my page protectors when I eventually get them in there, which reminds me I have a huge collection that need to go into some albums. I will get there eventually. So you can see there that I backed that cut file, and now I am going to place down the pieces. I'm not using the precise measurements that are in the pattern, but I'm using the general idea. And again, I'm wrinkling up the papers just to give that not straight line look, because I'm not very good at straight line looks, and sticking down this lined paper. I loved how the stars were there, and it kind of fitted with the pattern a little bit, but I was able to pull out one of the other zip strips with the cool colours on it to go just underneath there, as per the pattern kind of showed us. So again, even though they're just a 1/2 inch strip, you're still able to wrinkle them up and add a little bit of dimension to them with that process. So now I've got my photos, and I'm trying to work out which one's at the front. So the first photo that I talked about before with the desk is, so while I'm sitting at the desk looking across, you can sort of see my computer screen there. My cats have found this little chair that they quite love coming and sitting in while I'm teaching. I'm not sure if it's my voice that puts them to sleep or whether it's just a nice warm sunny spot. I'm hoping it's the sunny spot. But anyway, so they love being in there. So I've just stuck the cat picture down flat, but I've used Dimension 3D foam on the desk picture because I want it just to pop up a little bit from the background, from both the PML card and the other photograph. And I realised I wanted to stick this up there, so luckily I hadn't pressed down too hard the photo with the adhesive there, and I checked to make sure that's stuck enough, and it is, which is cool. So I am now going to add a few more bits and pieces around. So I'm going to stick on some of these little fussy cut pieces from that pretty cool teacher paper with some 3D foam, and I'm just placing them at various points around the page. Some of them I don't foam, but I think most of these I do, just because I've added some dimension already with the photos, where I've put that 3D foam under one of them and there's roughed up corners. The foam just really helps things to sit a little bit flatter over an uneven surface. So just playing around with those, putting those sound cards down. A big part, so we work in a team, so we've got 3 teachers, plus I've also got a student teacher working with me at the moment. So we've kind of got 4 teachers putting together our main learning videos for the week. And a big part of what I've been doing is our phonemic and graphemes and basically our sound and spelling work is a big part of my role. So I've been putting together those videos. So those little A for Apple cards were perfect because I've kind of got the A for Apple, Apple running through my head. It's been fascinating teaching this program because I realised distance learning wise, because the kids are videoing themselves to send me their work, a lot of them, even though they're year 4, don't have the full short and long vowel sound understanding, which it's really good that we're having this opportunity to find that out and to do that teaching. So yes, distance learning is hard and it's exhausting and it's different to what I would normally do, and it's not my passion, but there's also some really cool silver linings coming out, things that we're learning and ways that we're able to reach kids that perhaps we can't do in the classroom so easily when there's so many of them. In a way, their videos give me a one-on-one opportunity to hear and understand and then put things in place to support them better. So I've got these cool wooden stars and the wooden frames, and I'm going to actually colour them up, but I'm just choosing out which ones I think work with what I've already got on the page. So these are some new embellishments that have been put out as well. Different shapes. We've always had some wood embellishments, but these stars are pretty cool. There's a few different options with the stars, and when I was sharing some of the new things with a friend recently, she was like, oh, I love the stars and I love this, and yeah, so that was pretty cool. They've come in black and white, but I quite like using the wood ones because I can use my Distress Oxides to colour them up, which is what I'm going to do. You can see down to the right there a couple of colours, and I sort of had them there to choose, and I should have got out my multi-purpose mat, but I've just kept the Versa mat there because I was being lazy, and I've just inked up the blending tool, and I'm just sort of spreading that over the shapes that I've got there. So you can see how it's just given it that little green hint, and I was pulling the green out from the plants and the centerpiece around the sticker where it says learn something new every day, which I thought was quite fitting with this context and this page. So anyway, sticking down or putting in place the green stars where I might finish up with them. And yeah, I'm really happy with how they came out and how they just added that extra dimension, and that colour was spot on. So that was pretty cool. So now I am going to stick these down. So I'm going to get the green Tombow. I find this is quite a good easy glue. It dries clear, so if I make a bit of a mess with it, there's always opportunities to fix that up, and you don't really see it when it's finished. It might be a little bit shiny, but that's not a big problem. So anyway, that kind of finishes up my page. So this was the Smarty Pants Collection and Hitting the Books theme for the paper crafting YouTubers, and I've really enjoyed putting this together, and I hope you've got some ideas for your documenting as well. So here's just some close-ups. There's the full layout now that it's finished, as well as just some closer up shots of each of these pieces. So are you documenting your kids hitting the books, your grandkids, or maybe you're like me and you're a teacher hitting the books either at the start of a new year or in a different way to what you would normally be hitting the books. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. Please check out all of the other links below for the other great videos of hitting the books.